Hey everybody, my name's Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. As you probably guessed from the various reviews that I've posted on this channel, my listening habits tend to lean pretty heavily toward some flavor of rock music. But I still do listen to music of just about every genre, and I absolutely love it when I find a non-rock album or artist that really clicks for me. That's what happened this week when I stumbled upon a new live album from R&B singer-songwriter PJ Morton. Gumbo Unplugged is an in-studio performance of the music from Morton's Grammy-nominated 2017 album called, you guessed it, Gumbo. I'd never heard of PJ Morton before this week, but the track that I heard from his live album really intrigued me. Morton's sound strikes me as a throwback to the sound of Stevie Wonder in the 70s. Now, I'm not sure if I've had a chance to really talk to you about Stevie Wonder on this channel before, but I have to say that his streak of albums during that decade are absolutely brilliant. I actually did a bit of a Stevie Wonder 70s binge earlier this year. Those albums were the soundtrack for my annual CD reshuffling that I talked about back in January. So when I heard a contemporary artist tapping into that same vibe, I knew I needed to hear more. It turns out that even though I didn't recognize the name PJ Morton, I'd actually heard him before and didn't even know it. Morton's day job, so to speak, is playing piano and keyboards as an official member of Maroon 5. He's been playing with that group since 2010, and he's appeared on the band's last 3 albums, including their most recent release. But don't let the Maroon 5 connection fool you. PJ Morton's solo material is a totally different affair. As live albums go, Gumbo Unplugged is definitely a solid performance, even if the Unplugged label is a bit inaccurate. Morton is backed by a small orchestra, which gives the music an organic texture to be sure, but there's a full band too, including electric guitars, so I have to cry foul on the Unplugged thing. Setting that aside though, this is still a great listen, and it made me want to dig into the original album even more. As I said, Gumbo came out about a year ago. It's the 4th solo album for PJ Morton, and it's the first that he's self-released on his own record label. Going independent is probably a factor in why this appears to be a digital-only release. I haven't found it available on CD or vinyl. The same goes for Gumbo Unplugged. Both are digital and streaming only. And while the original album and the live version contain the same 9 songs, the track orders are totally different, and the live tracks run a little bit longer. To be honest, I don't hear a ton of difference between the 2 versions. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Guess it depends on your perspective. There's a few guest artists on the live album, so that's probably the biggest difference, but the arrangements are mostly the same, and I have to give proper credit for that. I think it speaks to Morton's talent and that of the musicians that he surrounds himself with, that he's able to deliver such a lush and layered performance in a live setting and in a single take with no overdubs or studio trickery. Unplugged kicks off with one of Gumbo's funkiest tracks, Sticking to My Guns. It's a great place to start with lots of energy and kind of sets the party mood right from the beginning. The studio album saves this song for track 3 and kind of warms up to it. That sequence works well in the traditional album format, but I do like the idea of kicking off a concert with something that's a bit more engaging, so I'm cool with this choice of an opener. The song also leaves little doubt about how strong an influence Stevie Wonder must have been on this music. Morton tones things down musically on Claustrophobic, a song that tells the story of how the record companies tried to pressure him to change his sound to be more mainstream. It seems appropriate that a song with that kind of message would be decidedly non-mainstream. I love the jazz chords at the heart of the melody and the subtle reggae-tinged rhythm. The performance seamlessly segs into another message song called Religion. Here, Morton sings about how too many people use God or religion as an excuse to justify their actions. On the studio album, the song is preceded by some brief dialogue where Morton talks about how religion played a role in the current state of American politics. It's topical, but also restrained, which is probably good. That'll help the music to remain relevant to future listeners rather than feeling too much like it's an indictment of today's conservatives. There's one cover song on these albums, and it's a surprising one. With How Deep Is Your Love, Morton brings a sexy, funky vibe to the classic Bee Gees ballad. I like it a lot, actually. It totally works. And in terms of track order, I like it a lot better here in the middle of the live album than I do as the album closer on the studio version. Speaking of track shifts, the next song on Unplugged was originally the opening song on Gumbo. First Began is a beautiful ode to true love and wanting to hold on to the way it felt in the very beginning. Again, I really love the jazzy melody on this song, and while the Stevie Wonder influence in the music is still prevalent, I find it even more so on the vocal on this track. It's also worth noting that this song was nominated for a Grammy for Best R&B Song. Morton lost out to Bruno Mars, but it has to tell you something about the level of his talent that he's nominated alongside one of music's biggest stars. There's something I don't quite like about the song Go Through Your Phone. Both the live version and the studio version have a spoken intro where Morton talks about trusting his partner enough that he doesn't want to go through their phone looking for evidence of misconduct. So, first of all, this is a decidedly contemporary concept, and that's fine, I guess, but the rest of the songs just have a more timeless feeling about them. Remember how I said I liked how Morton used restraint on the song Religion? I feel like that's missing here. On top of that, this is also the weakest song on these albums musically. There's just not a lot going on. Morton gets back on track with They Gonna Wanna Come, a song about fair weather friends that are happy to come celebrate a victory but never want to actually contribute to achieving that win. The song nicely showcases Morton's piano and is beautifully accompanied by the orchestra. The last two songs are best considered as one, really. Otherwise, the song All Right plays as one of the weaker tracks on either album. It doesn't have a whole lot happening, but I do like the way that Morton feels like he's channeling Marvin Gaye here, circa the What's Going On album, and the song definitely feels like one of the interludes from that classic record. In fact, it seems to serve the same purpose as All Right transitions into Everything's Gonna Be All Right. Now here, Morton finally cranks things up for a proper live concert closer. This song brings the party, almost Parliament Funkadelic style. It's a great jam with a terrific blend of funk and rock that definitely feels like it has more energy on the live album than on the studio version. Now there, the song appears in the middle of the track list without the burden of having to be the final word. Both versions work in their own ways, but I will say again that I do like this better as a closer than the Bee Gees cover. In the end, I think I found myself listening to the studio version of Gumbo more than the unplugged version, but they're both very good for similar yet different reasons. It's the same songs, either way of course, but I think that the songs blossom the most in the studio setting and become the truest versions of themselves, if that makes any sense. Now that's not to say that the live album is substandard. On the contrary, in the live setting, we get a much better showcase for the musicianship, not just of PJ Morton, but for everyone playing with him. It's a great companion to the studio versions, and if you're new to both, like I was, I think you'll enjoy exploring them both together in alternate listening sessions like I have. With that in mind, I'm giving both 2017's Gumbo and 2018's Gumbo Unplugged by PJ Morton an X rating of 7. Whichever you choose, you'll get a refreshing R&B throwback, which to my ears is more than welcome. Once again, my name's Kyle, and this is Track by Track. If you like this video, be sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel. I'll link to a couple of those down here below. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.